How's it going, everybody, and welcome to another podcast style video. So today it's going to be a Saints Row review discussion, as the title would suggest. Once again, this is going to be something very casual, not pretty much no editing. I'm not going to cut out any breaks. You'll probably see Arlo running around in the background. But I reviewed Saints Row for Game Explain, and I gave it a mixed, so I got a code off the publisher, so just to let you know. But I gave it a mixed, and if anyone's been keeping up with it, Saints Row got really, really bad reviews, and deservedly really bad reviews. So I watched a lot of the other reviews, because that is my favorite part of reviewing games early, is that firstly my opinion isn't influenced by other people's opinions, and also I then get to see how people interpreted what the game was before I play it, or after I've played it and all that. Sorry, this is just, again, very casual. But yeah, I was definitely one of the more positive reviews. So in Game Explain, how they do their ratings, it goes hated, disliked, meh, mixed. So I gave it a mixed, and then obviously it goes more positive from there. So I gave it a mixed, and I wanted to give it a meh, but they told me that they retired the meh. It's not really a rating. So I had to go between a mixed and a disliked. And I wouldn't sit here and say I disliked Saints Row, but I was in between disliked and mixed, so I went with mixed. Because there are a few things where I think if you play the game co-op and you just run around, you're just talking to your friend and not paying attention to the game, and just run around, do open world objectives, maybe both of you are looking to get the platinum together, you know, I think that's where Saints Row could be some fun. Like, it's very buggy. But yeah, so that's the rating I gave it. It is just okay. Just okay, if not bad. But I wouldn't have said I disliked the game. So I think where we'll begin, I won't begin with the story, but I'll begin with sort of the world and the feel of the game. So it's set in a place called Santo Ileso, which is like a west side American town. So it's kind of like gives off, I don't know, San Francisco. Well, no, not San Francisco, but maybe like Los Angeles or Las Vegas. It's kind of deserty, but also kind of has a city, and there's a river running through it. So that's the kind of vibe it gives off. And in it, there's like a few factions. There's Los Panteros, which are like the typical just gangsters. And then there's the other ones, which I forget. But like this whole review, it's been a few days since I've played the game. So a lot of this, me talking, is going to be, oh, I forget this, I forget that, because the game is rather unmemorable. But there's Los Panteros, and then there's the Collective, I actually think is the name. And they are the kind of, you know, we're anarchists, down with capitalism. But they wear like neon masks, they look like fucking Daft Punk or something. And then there's Marshall, which are like a mercenary corporation kind of thing that's headed by some, you know, very stereotypical, you know, kind of a Texan, like Texas oil baron kind of character, you know. Think of fucking like Doug Dimmadome from Fairly Odd Parents, or who's the guy from Simpsons. What's his name? You know your man, he always shoots off his guns. So it's all very, very unmemorable in that sense. And then if we're talking about the world, it feels rather lifeless. I think there's just nothing going on in it. There's very few, you know, where you're driving and you come across something cool. It's all just checklist open world game, like a Ubisoft game. So as a Ubisoft game, it's like the most slightly bang average, if not, well, probably below average Ubisoft checklist game. So that's the sort of world to expect, but it doesn't feel lived in whatsoever. And that's a lot. There's a few things adding to that, and it's, firstly, as I said, there's no, you know, random encounters, kind of, you know, you're walking along and there's some shootout between two factions. Like, there's none of that. And if there is, I never saw them. And then things just like spawn literally 15, 20 meters in front of you. which is really bad, and that just adds to the world just not feeling alive and not fun to explore. Now, in all fairness, while Rockstar worlds do feel alive, I don't really like exploring them. I play Rockstar games for the story, so I just run through, do the story, and then that's it. So yeah, the world doesn't feel good, which is a massive shame for an open world game, because obviously the world needs to feel lived in and a place where you want to be. And Santo Ileso just isn't that. And then the game feel itself is basically, it is a GTA-like game in its mission structure, but then a Ubisoft open world checklist in its world structure. So then the missions, there actually are quite a few good set pieces in the missions, which I'll give the game its props there. So they are kind of fun, but at the end of the day, it's drive, accept the mission, drive from one location to another, fight off a wave of enemies, and then that's it. Every single mission is like that. There's different ones where maybe you're running up a train, or there's ones where you might be in a helicopter, or things like that, but again, it's all the same. And as I said in the Game Explain review, at least Rockstar in these missions have really good characters and funny writing, whereas this game doesn't have any of that. So, like, to be honest, I'm not a big fan of Rockstar games, and their mission structure is pretty similar. Drive from point A to B, kill enemies, and then drive back. But at least they have the characters to keep it interesting, so you're actually engaged. Whereas in this, I wasn't engaged whatsoever. And then, like, to add to all that, when it comes to the shooting and just the general game feel, it just feels okay. Whereas I know people give out about Rockstar games not feeling like amazing, but at least they have, you can see that they're aiming for a certain kind of feel. Whereas Saints Row just feels like a generic third person shooter. Imagine, I don't know, you load up Unity and there's a little package that you can just open and it says generic third person shooter, and then they just threw that in. I don't know what engine this was built in, but that's just what I'm saying for an example. So yeah, the missions are okay. And then another thing that was very strange about the missions was the kind of how the game was structured. And I didn't actually mention this in my review. I have it written down in my notes here, but I didn't mention it, and I really should have. But it's basically, I didn't know what mission was a main mission and what mission was a side mission. So you pull up your phone, you have a mission list, and you could have 4 missions at any given time. But the missions, at one point I was doing a lot of these side ventures, which I'll get onto later, but a lot of these side ventures which were level gating me out of a mission that I thought was the main mission, but it's not, it was the side mission. So I spent like something like 3 hours doing a lot of side activities, which are extremely boring, by the way. And then it dawned on me that that isn't the main mission. And then there doesn't seem to be like a clear structure in the story. Like every single story, like you do fucking high school or secondary school level English. I need to start drinking some more water. But you do like high school or secondary level school English, and they teach you every story needs a beginning, middle, and end. But this just feels like it just runs. So I had absolutely zero clue where I was in the story, which is just weird. And then by the time it ended, I was like, what? It just ended? And then the twist. Do I want to spoil this? Okay, I'm going to put a timestamp. But if you're not interested in the final mission, well, the final few missions, I'll put a timestamp, so skip to that now. The timestamp will be somewhere here. You take a sip of water. But there's this character. There's something. Again, I already forget his name. But basically, in the first mission, you track him down and you throw him into prison or something. And then eventually later on in the game, you break him out and he helps you. And you think he's your friend. But then, like the last couple of missions, like maybe the last 2 missions, he goes crazy and he like wants to take your place. So he like kills you, takes all your friends, and then he builds a set that looks like your apartment. And they're acting out their lives as if he is you. And I was just like, what? Like, what the fuck is going on here? It just made absolutely no sense. Like, twists in stories are good, especially ones that you don't expect. But there needs to be things within the story that if you see that twist, or if you know the twist going into it, you'll be able to see little bits in the story that kind of like, oh, I never copped that because I didn't realize a twist. And you can see that the twist is very subtly telegraphed. But here it's just like, they were just, oh yeah, we'll write this. Oh yeah, okay, he does that. And then that's it. So, yeah, that's the end of the spoiler part. So, welcome back. So, yeah, that twist is just strange. And then while we're there, I think we may as well talk about the characters. So, this was like my biggest issue with the game, which is weird because I really don't care about story all too much. Like, if you watch this channel, you know that I like gameplay, and then a small bit of story. The story is completely secondary. But you load up this game, and you start as, you're like a mercenary for hire, or you're like you work for this mercenary group, and you're like, you know, it's a wage job, so you're only in it for the money, and you need the money because you need to pay off your fucking rent, and you need to pay off your student loans, and they have fucking mug mouses, like just stupid fucking jokes like that just do not hit. They rarely hit. Even the best written jokes like that rarely hit, because that's sort of like, oh, I have to pay my student loans. Amen to that sort of stuff. Like, that is scraping the barrel with comedic writing. And again, story and writing isn't big for me, but even still, I noticed this from minute one. And if you watch any other review, every single person slates the writing because it's absolutely awful. Like, at one point there's a mission where you're like driving from like the start of the mission or the end of the mission or something, and you're driving away, and the whole time the character's like fuck, like just screaming the F word as much as possible. And it's just awful writing. To be honest, I think this very well could be the worst writing I have ever seen in a game. So when it comes to like the sort of, you know, making rent, paying off my student loans, like that sort of stuff is like everyone jokes about, you know, paying rent or paying their mortgage or paying bills, how expensive it is. But like, it's never funny in real life. It's more just kind of relatable. So it's almost like, you know, that like Hello Fellow Kids, that meme with Steve Buscemi, like that's how it feels. It's like, oh, we need to make a game for people who like just graduated from college and are struggling to pay rent. Like, that's going to be the one note beat that we're going to do. And it just never hit. It never hit. And to be honest, I don't think that writing ever hits, because it's just so fucking one note and stupid. So, and then like when he said like, when one of the characters said mug mimosa, like a mimosa in a mug, like fuck off. I just cringed, and I just, this. And that's in like the first fucking cutscene. As you can see, I'm getting very animated here with my cursing. But I'm not monetized, so I don't care. But I don't even know where to go from there with the writing. I could sit here and give you like 25 million examples of why it's bad. Like, there's a few like funny bits. Like, there's a LARPing quest where one of the houses is Sandy Kraken. Like, okay, I'm a child, I find that funny. Like, I find it amusing, not funny. But again, it leans into that. There's a whole LARPing side quest where it's like LARPing houses, like LARPing groups fighting against other groups, and like they're always making jokes about Sandy Kraken. You know, the first time you hear it, that there's House Sandy Kraken and their logo is a kraken, you're like, oh yeah, that's amusing. But then for like 8 fucking missions going forward, that's the only joke they lean into. And the whole game is like that. And then, again, going back, sorry, I have to just keep harping on about the student loans thing. That maybe might resonate with like a very small percentage of people. But like over here in Ireland, to go to college, it's €3,000 a year. And even if you're getting accommodation, like I live in Dublin, so I could commute, But even if you're getting accommodation, like I assume colleges, 4 years of colleges, maybe at most a €30,000 investment. Whereas in America, you know, you come out of college, you have $120,000 off your head. So maybe, just maybe, that might resonate with some people. But it just didn't hit for me whatsoever. So with that terrible writing out of the way, and the terrible mission structure, where do we go from here? So I believe when it comes to this game, as I said, there's a few things that it kind of does okay. Which is being a switch your brain off open world game with some checklist stuff that you maybe only want to clear off because of OCD, kind of. You know, that sort of, I want to clear off this map. I want to get a platinum. I'd imagine this is actually a pretty easy platinum, maybe like a 25-hour grind sort of platinum. So yeah, that's fine and dandy. Well, actually, it might be a bit more, but so the main kind of goal of this game is that you started the Saints, and you started the Saints so you can pay your rent. So, you know, fuck off. Like, you need to pay rent. Oh, no, actually, I think, now that I think about it, I think you start the Saints, a criminal organization, because you want to buy a waffle maker. Oh, sorry, I didn't mention the characters, actually. So, you make your character, and the voice acting is actually pretty good. I'll give it that. Like, the voice acting is good. Just good. Wouldn't go anything over that. It's good. So you have three like friends in your group, okay? And one of them is Eli, who is the nerd, and he wears fucking 3/4 length like trousers with a shirt, a little cardigan, and a dicky bow, and he has glasses. I was like, yeah, okay, he's clearly the nerd of the group, and he's all about investment, like investing his money, and he's all about self-help podcasts. And once again, that's like another, just like, oh yeah, we need to make some relatable jokes for all these millennials and these young people that, like, you know, they listen to self-help podcasts and they're all about doing their yoga and stuff. Like, feck off. Like, make some good writing, okay? So, that's that in any way. So, Eli is boring. He's the guy that said Mug Mosa, and the second he said that, I was like, oh, I'm not gonna like this character. And then there's a female character. She's probably the worst of the group because she doesn't really have any defining features. She's kind of like just a normal like just a normal character. Like, there's nothing to her really. She's part of she's part of Los Panteros, the gang. And then like the other character, I think his name is Kevin. He's like a DJ or something. And his whole thing is he never wears a shirt, and all the jokes are, oh, Kevin, would you put on a shirt? Like, feck off. So they're the sort of jokes. And then they also do that stupid Marvel thing where it's like, there's all this like high stakes, but they're trying to like blow it off as if it's not serious. Like, at one point they rob a pawn shop or something, and like they hold your man up at gunpoint, and then your man's like, oh, don't hurt me. And then one of your, I think it's Kevin, punches him. And then you turn to him and it's like, whoa, nice left hook. Like a little stupid joke like that to make light of the situation. So the characters are just bad. And then at some points in the story, they're like, oh, we need to make some, you know, some character development here. And the female character has a car that she loves and she's doing up, and then somebody robs it, and she's like, yeah, that car was like when my mom had chemo and she would let me drive the car, and it was her car or something. Again, I don't even fully remember. I just remember it was like, yeah. And then she got chemo. It's like, I didn't care about you 5 minutes ago, so I'm certainly not going to care about your character when you tell me about your mom that died of cancer. You know, it's like that sentence sounds really bad, but like you need to earn me caring about the character, which they just don't do. And then I'm trying to think, your man Kevin, I think his whole stick is that he was an orphan, and they just dumped that on you in some mission. Oh, I actually remember the mission. The mission was like, you're going around to like different fucking fast food restaurants to get like a certain toy. And I think the whole thing was that why he wanted the toy is because like he couldn't have one when he was an orphan. I was like, oh my fucking god. I'm not a writer. I'm sure I could write better characters than this. It's rare that I say things like that in reviews because making games, I'd imagine, I know very little about making games. Making games is very difficult. Writing characters is also very difficult. But, like, come on, how does this get through a team of testers and publishers and higher-ups and creative directors and executive producers? Like, how does this get through all that? I don't know. So, the story is bad. That's the worst part about the game. Now, that's not saying much because the rest of the game is also pretty shit. Well, it's pretty just okay. So then, the whole point is you're building up the Saints, which are the Saints, your criminal organization. And how you do that is through these, I think they were called criminal ventures. So you have this map. And at the start, I think they're like $30,000-$40,000 to build a criminal venture. And each of these criminal ventures are different things. I think there's like 14 of them in the whole game. So I'll take a few for just for an example. So there's one called Shady Oaks Clinic, which you set up as a clinic, and these generate passive income in the background. And I wonder, now that I think about it, that they use that word passive income. Is that another like, oh, we're going to make a little nod to the millennials who watch all these videos about making passive income? I don't even know what a millennial is, to be honest. Like, what? Oh, there's Ireland back. He's stuck in the curtain. Oh, what a spanner. But anyway. So, these criminal ventures. Shady Oaks Clinic is a clinic, like a medical clinic, but it's used to launder money and as like a way to like commit insurance fraud. So, at first I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting, because instead of them like making almost illegitimate claims, you go out and you do a burnout / pain style. I'm going to run in front of traffic to get as much damage done to me so I can rack up an insurance bill. So I know that was in, I forget which Saints Row, that was in one of the other ones. I'm pretty sure the majority of these were already in Saints Row beforehand. So that was like fun for the first one. But then as you go on, this criminal venture I think could have had 4 to maybe like 7 missions, and they're all the same except you just have to rack up more points. But the traffic sometimes doesn't spawn. It's like one car would come every like 15 seconds. So you're just like sitting there slowly waiting for traffic. And having to do that like 5 or 7 times or whatever just got boring. And that kind of runs through for pretty much every single one of them that I did. Then there's another one, Jim Rob's Garage, which is a garage, or garage as Americans would say, where you basically have to find cars and take them back. That's it. Find a car, drive home, scrap it. Simple. And then there was one that was actually fun, and it was like you were alpha testing new tech. So you got some cool abilities and like a hoverboard. So that one was good. The rest of them that I didn't do all of them because I couldn't be arsed. That one was good. So, but that was like the only good one. The rest of them were all slogs, and the game does a small bit of level gating where it will say place 4 criminal ventures and complete 2, and by completing 2, it's, say if one of them has 7 missions, you have to do all 7 missions. So that's not good. So once Arlo is here crying, no, unless you want to come up. Do you want to come up? No. Okay. So that's the criminal ventures, which realistically is a big part of the game, and it just wasn't good. So then I think we'll move on to the customization. So the customization is the strongest part of this game, hands down. So firstly, you have a cool character customizer, which I really don't care about, but it's there for people that do. You can give yourself a big, massive knob. You can blur it out. You can have nipples. You can't have nipples. You can put different emojis over your nipples. You know, that's cool, I guess. But then you can like customize your guns. You can make them look cool. You can upgrade them. Same with your cars. And I think that's where the game is at its strongest, is the customization, and also like your clothes and stuff. So, like, fair play, the customization is good. And then when it comes to the vehicles, the driving is good. I've heard people say that they didn't like the driving. I really like the driving. It's very arcadey. And instead of like drifting with a handbrake where it's kind of feels a bit more realistic, you have like a Mario Kart drift where you hold a button and it drifts. And it feels really good. So again, that's a strong point. But then we'll get on to the progression. And the progression is, once again, one of the strongest parts of the game. Or stronger parts of the game, should I say. I don't want to use strongest. Well, I mean, I could, but still. It doesn't feel right saying it's the strongest part of the game, because that kind of gives it a you know, that it's good, like really good, but like everything, the best things in this game are like good. Nothing is great. So, the progression is decent. So you have perks and skills. You get the skills by leveling up. You get XP for doing different things. And some of the skills are pretty fun. Like there's one where you go up to an enemy and you throw a grenade in their trousers, and then you throw them towards a group of enemies, and then there's like different ones that maybe like regenerate health when you deal damage, or like a smoke bomb. And then that side hustle thing that I was telling you about with the different tech, you get a really cool ability where you put up this wall which acts as an X-ray, and then you could shoot enemies through walls. So that's why that mission, why them missions are actually good. So they're the skills, and then you get the perks, which you do by completing challenges. The challenges are another thing I'll talk about in a few minutes, but the perks are actually pretty, again, they're like passives. There's nothing too crazy, you know, like maybe trying to think of some. There was one where everything you do use or increases your notoriety less, so you don't get chased by the police as much. There's ones, to be honest, I can't really, I think there was one where when you get closer to death, I think you do more damage. Like pretty basic stuff, but it's kind of, there is a decent sense of progression. So then after that, I think the last thing to talk about really is the bugs, which, I mean, yeah, if you've watched anything about this game, I have a high tolerance for bugs, okay? I play loads of AA games. I've played Elix 2, which are both very, very buggy games. Obviously, old Bethesda games have plenty of bugs, and I have a high tolerance for that. I've played loads of AA games, so like I've experienced plenty of bugs in my life, and I have a high tolerance for them. But this game is easily one of the most buggy experiences I've had in a long time. And they're not even like, they're not serious bugs that are going to like 100% ruin your experience. Like, I don't know, I remember Outriders had a delete your inventory bug, or, you know, I didn't experience anything like that. It's just minor things that make you have to reload a checkpoint, and it's the fact that it happens quite often that's why it's so buggy and annoying. So I'm gonna just rattle off a few bugs here that I can think of in my head. So at points my character would hold they're going backwards, and I couldn't aim, I couldn't swap out my weapon, I basically could only move, and that was it. So I had to reload the checkpoint. There was one mission, and also this is actually very interesting because a lot of the reviews that I watched experienced the exact same bugs that I did. And this is one bug that everybody mentioned. Now, I didn't mention it in my review because the review would have been an extra fucking 5 minutes long. But there was one mission where you have to fight off a wave of police, and they spawn around you on the ground. But then above you, there's an overpass of like a highway, and police spawned up there, and there's pretty much almost no way that you can get to them or shoot them, because if you try to go close to them, you then run out of bounds, and it says return to the mission area, or, you know, you will have to reload checkpoint in 10 seconds. But eventually, all I did was I just so happened to have a grenade launcher or a rocket launcher or something on me that I could reach them, or a sniper rifle or something. If you didn't have any of them, then you would have had to just keep reloading the mission until eventually they spawned where they were supposed to spawn. Or maybe they were supposed to spawn there, but why they were supposed to spawn there, I don't know. That's really bad, like, programming on the developer side. So it's another bug, and another bug that every single person mentioned was when you get into a helicopter, at certain times, the camera would just zoom in. You can control the helicopter, but you can't see anything because the camera is zoomed in like 200%. What other glitches? The odd time I'd start a mission, and I wouldn't have any control of my character. My character would literally be standing there. I couldn't do anything. Couldn't pause the game. All I could do was go to the Xbox dashboard and restart the game. About halfway through my game, at different points, it wouldn't show the objective on the map or on like the HUD, so I wouldn't know what I had to do. At other times, the GPS just wouldn't send me the right way. It would send me halfway across the fucking town to get to the spot where, like, if I drove for 40 seconds up the road, I would have got to the objective. You can customize your clothes with different colors. So I had these tracksuit bottoms that were two-tone, but I wanted them to just be one color, so I changed them both to black. And anytime you buy a new piece of clothing, it would reset the colors. Let me see. Oh, there was one where I started a mission in a car, and my character wasn't in the car. I couldn't drive the car, but it was acting like I could control my character. I could aim and shoot. And if you looked off back in the distance about 25 meters, my character was there just spinning around in circles. So I was in the car, but outside the car, but the game registered that I was controlling my character and not the car. Let me think. The list just keeps going on. There's some pretty weird audio glitches where if you're in the car while there's music on and you're doing a mission where there's another character in the car, the secondary character's voice will be drowned out by the music. Let me think. Sorry, Arlo's crying at me here, which is ruining my train of thought. But the game just has a long list of bugs, like a long list of bugs. And I'm sure if you watched other reviews, they would have a long list of 20 bugs that I didn't experience, but a lot of the bugs seem to be that a lot of us experienced it. I think that's it for the bugs, because there are a lot of them. And this will be like, I wish I had written down all of my bugs. I didn't write down all of them. I just wrote down ones that were especially bad. The pop-in is awful. And there was people playing on PCs and Xbox Series X's, and they also had terrible pop-in. Like, you would literally be 10 or 15 meters in front of you. There'd be cars spawning. As you're driving through at night, as you drive towards like lampposts, the light would spawn 10 or 15 meters in front of you. The performance wasn't awful. It was mostly out in the desert where the performance hitched, but it mostly stayed solid. So I didn't actually really mention that in my review, because it did stay solid for a lot of the time. And then another glitch / just bad programming was the aiming. The aiming never felt right, and this is a third-person shooter. So if the aiming doesn't feel good, it wasn't completely terrible, but it was nowhere near even good. So there's like loads of different lock-ons for the auto-aim or aim assist. And I tried every single setting. There's one that's like a hard lock, soft lock, no lock, and then there's different aim assist settings. And every single one of them didn't feel right, so I had to turn it all completely off. And trying to play a game like that without aim assist is quite difficult, because we're all used to playing with aim assist. So yeah, the aiming just was never good. Like, it's pretty bad. Like, I think that's why this game needs a bit of a longer discussion like this. Like, this is running for 40 minutes because there are so many issues that it's almost like a good case study for how not to make a game. Because, yeah, it's just not a good game. This is like the first game. I gave it a mixed. And as I said, I wouldn't say I disliked it, but this is the first game where if I was like, as I'm reviewing it, I gave it a mixed, because it does have a few things that is like, okay, I can understand maybe some people would find fun in this. And if you're playing co-op, you might find some fun, because glitches in co-op are fun. Like, they're funny. And if you want to just run around, blow some crap up and, you know, maybe get a platinum, bit of fun to be had. So that's why I gave it a mixed. But this is probably the first game that I have ever played. Well, actually, no, Babylon's Fall was one that I ever played where I will say, do not buy this game. Not up. Yeah. Okay, Arlo's with me now. I would say, do not buy this game. This is not a game worth buying. So Arlo's on my lap here, so you might hear him sniffing or something. Yeah. Okay, Arlo. So, I don't really have much more to say about this game. It's a mess, a very, very, very big mess. And it's a shame because a lot of what the Embracer Group are doing, I like. Like, a lot of their output it's janky. Look, it's like fucking THQ, Deep Silver. They're known for jank, to be publishing jank games. That's fine. I am fully prepared to have games like that where they kind of, you know, they have a new idea. Like Elex, I'm going to keep going back to Elex, Greedfall, you know, games like that. They have a few bits about them where you're like, wow, I can see the idea they had here. Like they were trying something. Like the execution maybe wasn't 100% because it could either be a talent thing, it could be a budget thing, it could be a time constraint thing. Fair enough. These don't have unlimited budgets like Sony, and they also don't have the unlimited goodwill where Sony could turn to Insomniac or Naughty Dog could turn to Sony's like, look, we need another year on this game. And they'd be like, all right, we don't care. Whereas these teams don't have that, which is fair enough. Like, Naughty Dog didn't always have that. Insomniac didn't always have that. Fair enough. But at least in games like Elex, Greedfall, like Destroy All Humans remake, you can see that there are some fun ideas that if given the full time to develop, they could be seriously great. Like a Greedfall. Now, I've never beaten Greedfall, but I've played like 15 hours of it. Greedfall, given the time and the budget, could easily be on the level of The Witcher. Where, like, it's one of them seminal RPGs that you have to play. Because there's some good ideas there. I love the world of Greedfall. And the combat is fun. But, in fairness, The Witcher 3's combat isn't great either. But the combat is fun. But if given enough time to just develop it, I think Greedfall could be an amazing game. Whereas Saints Row, I look at this game, I know this is a long tangent, but I look at Saints Row and I think there is absolutely zero redeeming factors in, let me backtrack. There is absolutely zero ideas in this game that if given enough time, budget, or talent, could be developed into a fun, unique game, because this game does absolutely nothing unique. If this game executes everything that it wants to execute well, the writing is good, it performs well, the shooting is good, the abilities are fun, side venture missions are good, this would at most be like a 7.5 out of 10 if we're just gonna simplify it down to that. Now, Arlo, you can't lick me, I'm trying to talk. But like, at most this is a 7.5, maybe an 8 out of 10 if everything is executed perfectly. No, it's not an 8. A 7.5 at most if everything's executed perfectly, because everything it does is something that a game has already done beforehand. And done better. And then the final thing I want to say, they added in like a glider, like a wingsuit, you know, because every open world game needs that, because that is one of the best innovations in open world games ever. But the world isn't built for it. You have pretty much only 3 ways to do it. You go to a height, jump off. There's these tall buildings that you go up to them and it takes you up a lift and you can jump off them. And then there's these like grapple points where you walk over, grab onto a rope, and it slings you up into the air. And the only way to keep your momentum is by landing on cars and jumping off them as they speed up, and that never felt right. So they ruined that, which is bad. So I wouldn't recommend Saints Row. If you are going to buy Saints Row, do not buy it at full price, as it is in no way, shape or form worth that money, nor at this current moment in time in a state where it is fully playable, but as in like in an acceptable state to even like if you are a massive fan of Saints Row, to buy it at €70. So yeah, don't buy Saints Row. But that's the end of the video. This is like 40 minutes long. So I think I'm actually going to do this a bit more. I'd say the next one is going to be Last of Us Part 1. I will still be doing like the kind of edited, like the fully edited reviews, but I think I just want to experiment with different things and kind of hone my skills in different areas where I kind of have scripted reviews. I've done scripted reviews for ages now, so I'm not saying that I'm perfect, like I still have so much to improve on them, but I just want to branch out and do different styles of things so I can dabble my toes and figure out what I like and what I don't like. And then also, this is a good exercise in honing my skills for live streams, podcasts, things like that. So that's the whole aim for these. So again, this is like a podcast. If you've stayed till this long, thank you very much. That means a lot to me, to sit here and listen to me ramble for 40 minutes, because these are unstructured, so they are very rambly, but I hope you enjoyed my ramblings. I mean, if you're here, I assume you're already subscribed. You probably maybe like the video because you like me a bit, maybe because you did just listen to me for 40 minutes. If you listen to me for 40 minutes and don't like me, then I don't know what the fuck you're doing wasting your time. But thank you very much for watching/listening. I will be streaming soon enough, sometime this week. I don't know what game, probably Splatoon 2, because I'm really excited for Splatoon 3. The next video, this is more than likely going to be The Last of Us Part 1, because I want to sit down and have a proper discussion about that game. So, thank you. I'll see you all on the next video. Goodbye. Arlo also says goodbye.